I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Mrs. America After Show, Episode 5, Phyllis and Fred and Brenda and Marc. Wow, that's a big title because we got a lot to talk about today. We got topics, we got more behind the scenes this time than we normally do. We got some interesting twists and turns on some secondary characters. And then, of course, the big debate, part 2. But first, let's get on to our overall thoughts on the episode. A Diamond, what were your overall thoughts?
You know what? I just love that we're getting more in depth with the darkness behind each character or within each character. So we're able to see, you know, the juxtaposition between their private life and how different that is or can be from their public life and what they're advocating for. So I think it's a really great, and I'm really excited about getting to know more in depth about each of these characters.
Awesome. Mr. Cody.
I think it's great. It really is so fun to especially the characters we focus on today. Like, I feel we haven't seen much of them, and that's kind of how the show is progressing. It's like they're introducing us more and more to people. But they're just the dynamic with them. It started off like so fresh and cute, and it's like, oh, what a happy couple. And then it kind of what a Diamond said, like it goes, we see there's like a darkness, and there's not everything is so picture perfect. And it was, I don't want to say it's fun to see people's struggles, but it was just interesting to see the dynamic switch.
Nice. And last but certainly not least, Miss Ashman.
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting episode. Just like Cody and a Diamond said, we really get in depth with the characters and we learn more about what's happening behind the scenes in their relationships. And we learn about the insecurities that are playing out, for example, in Phyllis, and also the experimenting that we see going on with Brenda and Marc. So these couples appear to be one way, but there's obviously a lot more going on behind the scenes. So it was great to see, fun to watch.
Awesome. So I just realized that I've not introduced my crack commando unit. I am, of course, your moderator, fan of a strong woman, Sean McHugh, a Diamond, an active registered voter. We have Mr.
Yes.
Cody Epperson, who is a sister to the sisters, and of course, a woman who always brings insight, Miss Ashman Ram. All right, guys. So here we go. Right. So this is a very interesting title. Phyllis and Fred and Brenda and Marc, right? Because we're going to get to that debate eventually. But we start this episode with a performance piece that is like, gosh. I think it was so great because it was so great that they acknowledged that this is why they hate us, right? Like literally we have a woman with a huge foam penis and another woman with a huge foam vagina saying, this is marriage, this is marriage. So I thought it was nice because they kind of poked fun at themselves a little bit, like the movement itself. Ashman, give her some thoughts on that.
I mean, I thought that scene was so extra. Like it was, you know, there was, I mean, but I think it was almost important for them to convey the message and the purpose of that whole show. So it was funny to watch, and it was a lot, but I think the message came across. So at least the job was done through that performance.
Cody, I know you have thoughts on this.
Yes, as a theater major, I've definitely seen my fair share of over the top extra or bad performances, and it was just what I did appreciate though, and it kind of made me laugh. It was very like, I was like, all right, we've all been in like a very intimate theater setting where you're just like, oh, this is kind of painful. But what I did like was that our two couples that we were focusing on in that scene were they were good sports, and they left and they were like, it was definitely funny.
Nice. Diamond, any thoughts on this?
You know what? It was I know that if I would have been there nowadays, I would probably feel a little uncomfortable. But I can't imagine what it would have felt like back then when that probably wasn't so like where it was
Mm.
so radical to have experienced that. Um, yeah, I think I would have felt super uncomfortable. Although I appreciate the idea, but like I just can't imagine like how I just wish I would have been at that time and like been able to experience that like complete like shock, like I just would have loved to have been a part of that. So it was a little shocking towards now, mainly because it was like this is what marriage is. This is what marriage is, like so like, but if it was like a hip hop, like, yo, this is what marriage, like I don't know if it was done differently. I think I might have been like, yeah, like more into it, but it was so like, monotonous and like awkwardy. But yeah, I thought it was cool. I'm always happy when I see a penis on TV with a vagina. So I had no problem with it in that regard.
That's actually a really good point that you make, a diamond, in that you're right. We're so kind of like numb to this now that back then this would have been a much bigger deal. So that's a great point. I'm glad you pointed that out because you're right. We've experienced everything now. Like there's nothing. It's hard to shock us now. So you're right. That
Well,
would have been interesting.
penises are just now making their debut in television, like they've just been born, and it's crazy, like how much we've seen women's vaginas and boobs like since the beginning. And now I'm seeing more penises, which is interesting. It's cool. I'm like, wow, like I wonder if they had it, if an actor didn't do the role because he was worried about showing his penis, or just like a woman was like, I don't feel like being naked, like I wanted, like it's interesting to see, or I'd want to know what male actors are now feeling on the matter of having to be completely naked from below the belt, so, or lack thereof a belt.
Awesome. All right. So a big theme I think in this episode was behind the scenes, right? A lot of the previous episodes, we've seen them on the front lines rallying for their cause, trying to get things done. But this episode, I think we took a step back, right? And we really get to see that no matter what cause you're doing, no matter what's going on, there's still the day to day of your life, right? And you have to deal with it. So I really like that we saw that like you were saying earlier, Cody. None of these are perfect worlds that we're in, right? None of these have perfect relationships or perfect marriages, whatever they have. Nothing's perfect because life is not perfect. Um, so Ashman, talk a little bit like that first scene with Phyllis and Fred, right? Like he's getting a photo shoot done, like an article done, and she's just in the mix no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, she totally plays the role of the woman behind the man, and I think she struggles with that a little bit. Like she, on one hand,
Mm.
she feels like it's very ladylike, so she's like, no, no, put him front and center, and let me make sure that he's polished and brushed up and looks great because it's a reflection on her. She's like, I'm the homemaker. I take care of my husband, so I want him to look polished and perfect and powerful. But at the same time, she has like her own power that she wants to show, but like I felt like she was hesitant to get into that picture. Like a part of her wanted to be in it because she like they're a couple, they're still a team, but at the same time she just held back and she watched from afar. And I feel like this entire episode we really see how insecure Phyllis is about herself and her roles and what it means to be that wife or be that mother in her home.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think she is kind of wrestling with the idea of this activist woman being outside of the house, not necessarily so much a housewife, and then being that housewife. I think in that moment she didn't really want to join in that photo because maybe she didn't want to take the thunder from her husband, or and or she would have loved to have been in it, but that's not the place for a housewife, or you know what I mean, like if I felt like she was really wrestling with that idea or that concept. And then that newspaper comes out and it says the husband of Phyllis Schlafly. And so, I think she kind of knew that would happen if she was placed in that photo. And so even though she might have wanted it to as a woman who's an activist, she also needs to know her place as a housewife, because that's what she's advocating for. So it was a really tough place for her to be in.
That's interesting that you talk about the struggle she was having, because she actually says, "Oh, I'm not ready to be having my photo taken," and I think that was the thing that really stopped her. I don't think she had. I think if she was photo ready, she'd have jumped right in and been in that
She's always
picture.
photo ready. She's the
No, not
housewife.
that scene though. Not that scene. And because I was going to get to it later. How her costumer is amazing. She looks amazing whenever she needs to. But for that scene, she wasn't quite dressed for photo. So
Mm.
I thought that was interesting. She mentioned that.
Mm.
Cody, there was a lot of subtle things in this this part of the scene as well. Like there's that, the reporter says, "Oh, you should be in the picture," and she says, "No, no, no." But then they move her photo behind him, which was very interesting. And then I don't know if you caught it, they're literally tipping the scales of justice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
talk
thought
about
that
some of
was
that.
I did notice the scale tip at the end of the scene. I wasn't sure if that was in the photo, or if it was more of a symbolic thing for us as viewers. But I mean, it was definitely a noticeable thing. And they did move her picture in. So part of me, I truthfully think that maybe they wanted to feature her. And and Diamond said it, they even though she wasn't actually in the photo, they did feature her. They called him Phyllis Schlafly's lawyer husband. And it's just like, and then and from there on, their relationship was very it was trying throughout the rest of the episode, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. And not to get into it too much, but like, I think a woman always knows, and I think that her intuition is really strong in the sense, and her like ability to assess a situation or where something is going. And I think she's starting to see what life would be like if she was in the limelight more than her husband, who's probably more used to being in the limelight. And she's not quite ready, maybe necessarily how to handle it, though she could be ready to do it. But when in that scene, which I'm sure we'll get to later, where they're getting in the argument after that interview, the couple's interview or debate, and he's like, "Oh yeah, who's going to pay for your college to go and be in the law school?" And at that moment, I just thought, this is what women are fighting for, the ability to, and so I just love the background juxtaposition. Like, it's just so intense, and it's so raw and so beautifully woven into everybody's lives. But I know we'll get to it later, so I don't want to push it, but yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So now we for the first time, we've kind of gotten into some secondary characters, like pretty deep, like almost the whole episode is about Brenda and Marc, and they have a very interesting relationship. Now I'm gonna say I feel like they telegraphed the whole lesbian thing for me, but it was still an interesting twist. And then the way he reacts is even really more interesting. Ashman, talk a little bit about this couple.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting couple. I think like the pros are, I like the equality in their relationship. I like their support for one another. I like the communication, and I like the understanding and just honesty. Like, obviously they feel safe communicating with one another, and that's why Brenda was able to be honest with him about, getting together with Jules. But I thought like Marc's reaction was really interesting. Like, on one hand, he's like, "Okay, like, thank you for being honest, and I can understand that you experimented." And he did say that it would be different if it was a man versus a woman. But for the fact it kept happening, and he was kind of like still okay with it, and was like, "Well, we'll find our new we'll find what works for us." I just thought it was interesting, because at the end of the day, like, it's still a marriage, right? So if somebody keeps doing that, you're cheating in your marriage, you're stepping out in your marriage. So I'm like, well, it's cool that this guy's this understanding, but is that a little too understanding? Like, where is that fine line? But I guess, that couple could only define that for them.
And it's
Nice.
almost insulting that he would be so okay with her and not get upset when she's gone. Like, obviously they have an open marriage, they have an understanding, and your marriage is whatever your understanding is, and it's openness. And so I think that it's a little insulting that he doesn't think that a woman, he doesn't feel in competition with, or that this woman is a threat. But if a man was to do it, he would feel threatened by this. And so I think that that even though they're very open, that there's still that piece of like, but even though they're radical, you know, they're like radical thinkers and whatever, that shouldn't you allow a man to have sex with your wife as well if your marriage is open? So it was a little insulting that he's not finding it threatening at all that his wife is sleeping with another woman. But it would be completely different if she was sleeping with a man.
That's very interesting that you find it insulting, because I was like, wow, lesbianism gets a pass a lot more than if it was the other way around. So that's interesting. I don't know, Cody, what were your thoughts on this?
Well, going off what you all just said, I think that it's a weird, I don't want to say weird, but it's like a thing with sexuality that like lesbianism is very much more accepted with heterosexual men than gay men. And so I think, and it's very funny because it's like a lot of times, so like they're a very radical relationship, and they're very open. But if it were a man, it would be a problem. And I think that says a lot about her husband, in that he's not as open and forward thinking as they want us to believe, or that she believes in him. And it's very interesting, because then it goes back, and there's just so much to be said in just that simple statement of like, oh, well, if it's not a man, that's fine. And it's very interesting. And I do think that what Diamond said, out, he doesn't feel that there's a competition because it's a woman. And this might be dipping into more predictions. I do think that it's going to further down the line be a rocky path, because we see in the kitchen when she's talking to Gloria that she's a little more distraught about the whole thing than I think she's letting her husband know.
Yeah, she like, what does she quote? Well, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, well, then the fact that, I mean, he literally gives her the biggest hall pass of all time, right? When he was like, well, this is, we can open up what we think family is. And I think you're right, Cody. I don't think that I think in theory this works for him on paper, but I think the actual practice of it, as we get further along, we'll see. Because I don't think this can really work in general. I think, unless both people are having extramarital stuff, there's no way that just one person doing it.
That's the thing. I mean, it's extremely difficult to have that openness, or to have, to accomplish that thing without anybody's feelings getting hurt, even though you are so open and you're so willing, and you guys are communicating, and there is an understanding, and you set rules. People's feelings do get hurt, which could destroy the relationship later on down the road. But like when they had just left the play with the puppet parts, Gloria had said, isn't marriage is a prison, like it just is. And I think that that's something that Brenda and Marc are kind of not seeing, or they're in denial of at this point, because they think they can have this open marriage, but who knows, down the road it could be destroyed because it is open, because they need more freedom, but they can't, because they have this agreement within the marriage, making it a prison, So.
And we actually see Marc get insecure, because when she tells him that she did it again with Jules, he does say like, well, one, are you leaving me for her? And when he says no, you kind of see that relief in him. And then secondly, he's like, do you love her? And she's like, no, I can't, I wouldn't love anyone more than you.
She says, I don't even know if I like her.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I feel like he needed that reassurance. And I mean, Diamond, you're absolutely right. If they keep trying to be open like this, it's just going to open up more insecurities, if already reassurance is needed to kind of define this type of openness.
I think it was also interesting too that all this was going to change for Brenda once a kid came into the mix as well, right? I mean, I
And
think it's so
Good.
funny when he's like, oh, we're pregnant. She's like, pregnant? I like girls.
Basically.
I think
Okay,
that's why she was reluctant.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the show does such a great job. Like, editing doesn't get enough credit sometimes. We literally cut from this sexy lesbian bar scene right to Rosemary with a bullhorn, right? Like, and it's like, oh yeah, the other side of the world is still going on here, guys. So that's just so fun for me. But we get a knock at the door of Phyllis's house, and it's a strange visitor who has her son's wallet. Cody, what did you think in that moment?
I wish that stranger visitor was coming to my door, but
Right.
I wish I left my wallet at his house. It was a very telling scene for sure. I'm truthfully a little uncertain, like, cause he was giving the wallet back, but he like held onto it for a second to kind of send Phyllis a message. And I'm not entirely sure what that message was, but it was, and it's, I mean, it was clear that Phyllis knows what's going on. She talks to her son in a later scene about it. And we can discuss that later, or we can, or not, but it was just a very strange scene, because I don't understand. It doesn't seem like he's trying to, like, he seems like a threat to the family, not to her son. And so I'm just kind of uncertain of what really is going on with him, and whether or not he's gonna make a reappearance in this show.
Well, you're absolutely right. He is a threat to the family and their beliefs and what they are presenting to the world. And I didn't real I for some I thought the wallet was her husband's, and I didn't get the gay vibe going until later when you see, when
The
she has
cigarette conversation.
the cigarette conversation, and then I go, oh, got it. That's what he was doing. He was, I don't know what, I don't know, like blackmailing their family. I don't know what that term is,
Yeah,
but he
I
was
think
making sure, yeah, he was making sure that she paid him the money, because he will speak about this and tell whomever that this activist, this very right-winged activist, is son is gay, and then that becomes a threat to their family and everything she believes in. And oh my goodness, I can't believe she didn't give him a $100,000 check instead of whatever dollar she gave him. So that was a very powerful scene. Even like it's so powerful because I can't imagine. I don't like, it just shows that like what the time was like for gay men, and that this gay man was so willing to out someone else and destroy everything going on, maybe even out himself, or threatening to do that. And almost like there's no brotherhood there, or like homosexuality hood there. It was like it's scary that, like, so yeah, I think it's a very bold move on his part, very scary to think about and consider. And for a mother who's trying to hide that part of her son and that part of their family, it could be very scary for somebody like that.
Okay, so Ashman, Cody kind of brought it up, so let's just get into it. So then this all leads to that conversation where smoking is the new gay. Talk a little bit about that, because that was a very bizarre thing for me. I get it, the time period, but it felt more like a 50s conversation than a 70s conversation.
Sure. Well, I just want to say that I was really happy to see more unfold on this storyline about her son, like potentially being gay, because even in our live chat last week, that's the main thing our fans were discussing and wanted to know. They're like, hey, did anyone else notice that her son is gay? So it kind of left us with this tease. We're like, wait a minute, is this a possibility? And in this episode, we see a lot more of that. So I think her having that conversation with her son was like a complete like mind manipulation. I think what she was saying is like, listen, I had a habit before too, but the mind is stronger than the body, and we can control whatever that is. So I feel like she was telling him like, one, you need to be extra careful how you're treading, because this guy just showed up at our house with your wallet. So clearly it's not even that he hasn't acted on his own sexuality, right? This guy has showed up. And I think so she's trying to, she's protecting her image for sure and her family, but at the same time, she's trying to persuade him that don't act on your feelings, train your mind in a certain way, and then you won't go down this path. So I think it was, obviously messed up because she wasn't open to it at all, and anything in her power she can do to sway his mind, she was going to try to plant that seed. So I think that's what that conversation was about.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was definitely a kind of a warning. But then they nicely end it with this kind of them playing the piano together. Because end of the day, she's still a mother. And I like that we did see kind of both sides of the mother bear trying to protect her son and yet still coddle him a little bit. Because she
If
knows.
I could just, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Please go ahead, Cody.
I completely agree with all of that, but I also think that I kind of think that she does accept her son for who she is, but it goes back to the whole image, like the way their family is and like their place in society. They have to uphold this image, and that's definitely what she's lobbying for, fighting for with her campaign. And but this family, they don't, and that's the thing, they sweep everything under the rug. They do not talk about their feelings, they do not talk about their emotions. Everybody has a place and a purpose, and they have to do what they have to do for the sake of their family's image amongst their place in society. So it's just very interesting. And you can even, I don't necessarily think she's manipulating her son. I think she's because, like I said, they don't talk about their feelings. She's trying to, I get, maybe it is manipulative, but coach him to be like, yo, like this is yo, that's how she talked. That it's like she just wants to not, it's like avoiding conflict. She doesn't want her husband to freak out, or the family or the neighbors to have this, oh, well, their son is gay, and it caused a whole thing. And so it's just, and I was kind of something I did notice with this family, that they do not speak on their emotions. And then even towards the end of that, or before they started playing the piano, there was a lot of pain on his face. Like, it wasn't just like, oh yeah, mom, I get what you're saying. It was like, I think it is going to blow up eventually.
Yeah. All right. So the final topic, the big debate, part 2. So first of all, we have Bobby Cannavale playing Tom Snyder, and he is killing it. I love Bobby Cannavale. He's such a great actor. But I don't know if you guys know Tom Snyder, the old broadcast guy, but he's like spot on with this impression, this thing of him. So he's great. A Diamond, talk about this debate, because we really get a sense of who Brenda is. She brings the fire.
Sorry about that. Yes, Brenda does bring the fire. And I was actually really happy to see Phyllis fail in this debate, because she won the last one. And and to keep things even, because everything's fair. And so I thought she was fire. She was sticking to the facts, and Phyllis was going off like her rocker, like making up or messing up whatever like law case she thought she was talking about, or just plain faking it. And it just showed like how quickly Phyllis spiraled out of control, because Brenda was so poised, calm, and was really sticking to the facts of everything. And I think that and I think that Phyllis had a huge expectation going in to that debate. Not only did she want to do it by herself and had to bring in her husband, but who is just because he's a lawyer, she went in and just kind of like word vomited everything and rushed everything, and that could show the anticipation and the angst that she had going into it. And I think that was to her defeat at the end of all of it. And but yeah, Brenda was amazing. She and her husband were completely on the same page in the sense of like what their marriage was about. But you can tell on the complete opposite end of that Phyllis and her husband were not. And he tried to keep with their perfect picture by saying that she's a submissive, and she completely did not agree with that, which is just a peek of their background, of the darkness of their private life, just poking through a little bit into the public eye. So that was really cool to see.
Ashman, what were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. And I thought that Phyllis felt really left out of the situation. My gathering was is that 3 out of those 4 people, they were all lawyers. They all went to Harvard. They had the same training, same conversation. And even backstage when they started kind of discussing their Harvard commonality, Phyllis was insecure. She couldn't participate in that conversation, no matter how much education she has. But she's not a lawyer. She doesn't have that degree. So I feel like when they all sat for that debate, that totally worked against her. And the worst thing she could have done is name a case that's never happened. Like for me, she just, like even as a journalist, right? Like she lost all credibility at that point. If you don't know something, say you don't know it. But to make up a fake name, and her husband didn't back it up because he's like, I'm not going to lose my credibility. This is all wrong. And Brenda and Marc, they were just like, sticking to the facts as any good, debate should. They're like, name the case. Like you keep making these allegations and scaring people that this is what it is, but you have no facts to back it up. So, I mean, and I think that's one of her reasons of why she wants to go to law school so bad, because, she's lacking a part. And I think she feels that lack. And as a result, like, I don't know, I think she looked foolish to me amongst everybody else.
Yeah. Cody.
Yes, I thought that going into this scene, I thought that Brenda and Marc, I thought they weren't going to keep it together because of what Brenda had just admitted to him like moments prior. And then Phyllis and her husband went in and they seemed like they were prepared and ready to go. And it just wasn't what I was expecting, which I thought was really great. I was glad to see Brenda win this debate because I was on her side. But it was really crazy to see. It was nice because we're on Brenda's side, or I'm on Brenda's side, but it was hard to watch Phyllis fail like that. And I think her husband not coming to her aid wasn't for his benefit. I think it was because he's not actually as much on her side as he wants her to believe. I think he definitely wants her to remain as his housewife. Like she didn't want her to win in her last 2 campaigns that she worked on, and I think he secretly wants this one to fail as well, or maybe even not so secretly. And I think he probably could have come to her aid with some sort of case name when she was stumbling and just didn't, because I think he wants her to not succeed. He wants her to stay in her place. And a part of me also thinks, because at the end of the episode he was like, I don't know if he was fired or demoted or something at his law firm happened. He's no longer in his office, he's in a different office. And I think he knew that was coming, or already knew it had happened, and was probably bitter, because I think it has something to do with Phyllis and what happened with the newspaper article and what happened at that interview with him at the beginning. I think there's
Speaking
something
of
to be.
predictions.
Sorry, I know I keep saying things like that.
No, that's great.
But it's part of it's just what I think is happening in that scene. I think there's a lot more underneath than just, oh, he didn't support her in that moment.
Okay, so we're winding down here. So let's get to predictions. What are we thinking is going to happen in the weeks to come? Ashman, start us off.
Yeah, I think that Phyllis is going to start law school. I think Fred is going to have a fit, so we're going to see more problems in their marriage. And maybe with their son Joe, more things are going to be revealed. So we might really see that family start to unravel. Who knows if the affair is going to progress between Jules, but I think she's going to stay in the picture because we did hear Gloria say she wants to hire her. So I think things are just going to get hotter as the episodes progress.
Cody.
Similarly, I think that Brenda is going to leave her husband for Jules. I think that Gloria is going to become more understanding of the typical nuclear family. I think Phyllis is going, I honestly, maybe this is a little too dark, I think her family is going to kind of fall apart, and I think Phyllis is going to kind of rise from the ashes and learn a new way of living as an independent woman. And I do think that the thing with her son being gay is going to blow up in the family's face. And I think that's all I can think of at the top of my head.
Okay, bring us home with Diamond.
I think that Brenda will stay in her relationship. I don't know if I don't think she'll give up Jules just yet, but I do think she will have an abortion. I think
Mm,
that
valid.
Phyllis has too big of a it's too big of a risk for her to allow her family to implode, or explode, whatever. So that will just become more of a struggle for her, but she will manage to do it to the public eye. But more things will be coming out. I think she will go to law school, because I have no idea about history, and I'm not gonna look anything up because I want to see this unfold in front of my face for the show. So maybe she already has it and it's very obvious to other people that she got her law degree, but I think she'll do that. Um, and I'm not seeing much happen with Gloria, or yeah, Gloria. So uh I don't know. I don't have a prediction more than I want to say. I just want to see more from her, and I want to see more of what she do. Oh yeah, and then we were introduced to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, so I don't know. Maybe we start to see more of Ruth's like whole trial. Was she Roe versus Wade? I don't know. Is that what it was? I don't know but Ruth Bader Ginsburg was introduced, and so hopefully we see more of her and what her activism entails.
Great. I'm just going to do a small one. I think Gloria and her current boyfriend are done. She doesn't
Oh
want to be a
yeah.
mom. She doesn't want to be in a nuclear family. She doesn't want nothing to do with it. She doesn't want to be in prison, as she said. So I'll just be my thing. All right, that's going to do it for tonight's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Please like, subscribe, comment below. We would love to hear more from you. We will try to get the chat more involved as well for next week. So bear with us as we're figuring it all out. But where can we find everybody? Cody, where can we find you?
I am on Twitter as Cody_Epp and on Instagram as Cody Epp, CODYYEPP.
Awesome. Ashman.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you so much to the 7 people that joined our chat and remained with us throughout the whole time. We love you guys.
Oh.
And you can find me on Instagram at Insights by Ish.
Awesome. A diamond?
And thank you guys, the 7 that are watching as well. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. My handle is not your type. So NOT_YUR_TYPE.
And you can find me at Gorilla Suit Sean on Twitter, at SeanStar75 on the gram, and on the Rush After Show with the lovely Mr. Diamond as well. That's going to do it for us tonight.
Rush or run?
Thanks. Or run. I'm so sorry. Run. Thank you. Run, not rush. Run.
Either way, same thing, right?
Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.